As we've said from day one, we have an intense focus on preventing this conflict from spreading. And a big part of the conversations we'll be having over the coming days with all of our allies and partners is looking at the steps that they can take, using the influence and ties that they have to do just that, to make sure that this conflict doesn't spread. Second, we'll be looking at what we can do to maximize the protection for civilians, maximize humanitarian assistance getting into them, and also to get hostages out of Gaza. The situation for men, women, and children in Gaza remains dire. Far too many Palestinians have been killed, especially children. Far too many remain incredibly challenged in terms of their access to food, to water, to medicine, to the essentials of life. So it's imperative that we see a substantial and sustained increase in the assistance that's getting to them, as well as to the protection of civilians in general. But it is vital that we engage in this diplomacy now, both for the sake of the future of Gaza itself, and more broadly, the sake of the future for Israelis and Palestinians, and for the region as a whole. There is clearly a strong desire among the majority of people in the region for a future that is one of peace, of security, of de-escalation of conflicts, of integration of countries. And that's one path, that's one future. The other future is an endless cycle of violence, a repetition of the horrific events that we've seen, and lives of insecurity and conflict for people in the region, which is what virtually no one wants. Yeah, from our conversations today, it's clear that Turkey is prepared to play a positive, productive role in work that needs to happen the day after the conflict ends, and as well, more broadly, in trying to find a path to sustainable peace and security. We had conversations about that. I can't go into any details except to say, again, they're clearly prepared to play a productive role. I think they're also prepared, as they have been, to use the ties, the influence they have, the relationships they have with some of the critical players and some of the critical countries in the region to do everything possible to de-escalate and to prevent the conflict from spreading. Turkey can play a really vital role in doing that. That was a big part of our conversation today. They clearly have a shared interest with us in doing just that, and I'm confident from these conversations that they're going to make every possible effort.
In terms of the Greeks?
And in terms of the Greeks, we were very focused on a couple of things, but particularly the challenge that's being posed right now by the Houthis to shipping. I mean, keep this in mind. 90% of global commerce every single day is done via shipping. Greece is playing a critical role, and of course it's one of the leading shipping countries in the world, so it has a real incentive to uphold this international norm, protecting freedom of navigation, protecting freedom of shipping. It's participating in Operation Prosperity Guardian. It's dedicated a frigate to that, and that was one of the focuses of our conversation today. From day one, as I said, we've been working to make sure the conflict doesn't spread. One of the areas of real concern is the border between Israel and Lebanon. And we want to do everything possible to make sure that we don't see escalation there. But it's very important that Israelis have security in the north. Tens of thousands of people have been forced from their homes in northern Israel because of the threat posed by Hezbollah. We are looking at ways, diplomatically, to try to diffuse that challenge, that tension, so that people can return to their homes, that they can live in peace and security. And this is something that we're very actively working on. It's going to be part of the discussions we have over the coming days, not just in Israel, but some of the other countries concerned. And I think, again, from the perspective of Israel, it's clearly not interested, does not want escalation. That's been made clear, again, from the start. But they also have to be fully prepared to defend themselves and defend the rights of their people to live in their own country, in their own homes. But we know that this is not what Israel wants or seeks. It's not what we want or seek. I know from Lebanon's perspective, it's not in the interest of Lebanon to see any escalation. So the question is, in large part, Hezbollah and what actions it will take, and how countries that have a relationship with Hezbollah that may have some influence can use those relationships, use that influence to try to keep things in check.
To exist in old Cretan houses, actually very climate. Handshake, of course, we manage that.
Thank you.
Again, thanks, well, Mr. Secretary, it's a real, and I'm very happy to welcome you at a time where I honestly feel that our bilateral relationship is probably at the best it has ever been. These are difficult and challenging times for the region, and it is incredibly important for us to stand by side, not just to work to further strengthen the relationship, but also to act as allies and to ensure that peace and stability returns to our troubled region.
We are standing together facing some of the most acute challenges that we've seen, but the fact that we're standing together, that we're working together, whether it's in defense of Ukraine, whether it's for peace and stability in the Mediterranean, whether it's dealing with the situation in the Middle East, Gaza, and so many other ways, that's a tremendous source of strength and reassurance for the United States. So I know we have a lot to talk about, and really that's why I'm here. Your voice, your views, your counsel, your partnership mean a lot to the United States. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
As we've said from day one, we have an intense focus on preventing this conflict from spreading. And a big part of the conversations we'll be having over the coming days with all of our allies and partners is looking at the steps that they can take, using the influence and ties that they have to do just that, to make sure that this conflict doesn't spread. Second, we'll be looking at what we can do to maximize the protection for civilians, maximize humanitarian assistance getting into them, and also to get hostages out of Gaza. There is clearly a strong desire among the majority of people in the region for a future that is one of peace, of security, of de-escalation of conflicts, of integration of countries. And that's one path, that's one future. The other future is an endless cycle of violence, a repetition of the horrific events that we've seen, and lives of insecurity and conflict for people in the region, which is what virtually no one wants.
Ön kapı görüntü.
Yine. Sessiz. Sessiz.